Down before you stress up the groove, the energy a little different when the blessings accrue. Hey, who you talking to? Just know I ain't no regular fool. Could be anything in the world, but I can never be you because I stand tall like I'm on my tiptoes, baby. You think a little too small. I got big goals, baby. Ain't where the money at? Look, I just need the info. Pronto, I go and get it and split it with my kinfolk daily, and I'm the type of that might change my number on you. Yeah, that's how you react when people took a slumber on you. Pretty brown skin, baby, I can see the summer on you. You see all the bread, and I know it make you wonder, don't you? I ain't surprised at all. Seen them rise and fall. Went up the mountain, it wasn't hard to climb at all. At the top, I found some relief. I finally got some peace. Carry on, but please don't mess up the mood. Yeah. I work too hard for it. No, I need to beat it before you mess up the mood. Yeah, I work too hard for it.
Hello, happy Saturday to everybody. We're here for another episode of the Chronicles of a Black Sheep. So tonight we do have a special guest. Appreciative of our guests for coming on tonight. Tonight's topic is the doors of the church are open. So this is from the spinoff of Ant's comment last week. This is what we decided to do this week. So we are going to go ahead and get our intro started so we can jump into it because we already had started before the show started. So buckle your seatbelt, get our intros done. So tonight we have our honorary guest on tonight, repeat guest, Miss Nika Pinks.
Hey, y'all.
Mr. Ant Dunaway.
Hey, y'all. How's it going?
DW. And our special guest tonight is no other than Apostle Marcus McIntyre.
What up?
Anybody that knows, Marcus is my oldest but little brother. Because the gray has kicked in heavy with him already, and I'm still good on it. So we cracked that little sibling joke there. But I'm going to actually let Marcus introduce himself because he got a couple of titles to him.
Man, I guess my dopest title is dad. To my little one, that's my dopest title. That's what I die, knowing. You get what I'm saying? So, but I'm husband. Pastoring is not who I am. Pastoring is what I do. So pastoring is not who I am. Pastoring is I pastor. So I pastor one of the dopest churches in the city of San Antonio, the Well Experience, known for pastoring San Antonio's first hip hop church called New Method Hip Hop Church, which was something one of its kind, something extremely dope. Man, for me in this season, I just feel like God is using me to get rid of what we know as religious thinking and get to the space where people have experiences with God instead of experiences with human beings. So, I enjoy this season that I'm in. Made a lot of mistakes to get here, but it's a beautiful season, and we here. So enough about me. I'm here.
So I'm gonna go ahead and here we go with the Jesus. Now you raising hands already?
Yeah,
let the church say amen. I saw your eyebrow. I saw the eyebrow when he said what he said. So go ahead. Go ahead.
So I'm gonna jump on it right now. When you say experiencing God instead of experiencing people, can you expound on that?
All right. So if we're not careful, people have been going to church and they've been experiencing a man or a woman on a platform versus experiencing him. Because if we're not careful, platforms can be about personality and not about power of God and purpose and those things. So really what we should be doing, or what I'm learning to do, is make sure that the experiences are not surrounded or connected to me. Even though I may be a vessel whom he uses, I should be pointing them to him. So at the end, in the beginning, in the middle of the day, they should have had an experience that's life-changing, that they can point to God did it and not Pastor Mac did it.
Mm. All right.
You okay with that?
You got my mind. No, my mind going now. I'm gonna let y'all go though. I'm writing it down.
Okay. So jumping into it. So we go back and you mentioned New Method.
Right.
New Method being the first hip hop church in San Antonio was something that me and you started together. I remember going down there and you was like, put your name on that joint. I was like, say what? So that was something we started together. We know that us growing up in church with our daddy being a bishop, we've had them trials as growing up. How do you go about standing out and not being in dad's shadow? Because we know, as many people that knows dad is known for singing his behind off. He's known for cooking best enchiladas, like just ever, like dressing, all that he throws down. How do you get your own identity and step out of dad's shadow?
Well, for me, you know why you brought me on here, so I'll be brutally honest. I possibly didn't do it right. So initially, we shouldn't start or do anything out of rebellion. And for me, I believe that I broke out into what my assignment was, not because it was my time, but I think I broke out more because I was being rebellious, because I didn't look or sound like anything that I was a part of. And so, it wasn't really my want to break out of his shadow, really, because his shadow was comfortable. Because to not add up to him was not very disappointing to me, if I be honest, because to be able to say that I'm not him gave me a lot of room for error, a lot of room for wanted error. So, it wasn't a get away from him type thing or get away from the persona of, do you sing like your daddy? Do you cook like your daddy? All of that didn't happen until I actually got in the ministry and didn't want it to be associated with anything that was him, even though it was great. You get what I'm saying? Like, it was extremely great. Dad is dope, and dad didn't have no enemies, all of that. He didn't have none of that. So, but it was, for me, was Mac's son could only carry me so far. So breaking out of that, what it really took was for me to find identity. And initially, I didn't find identity immediately. Initially, I was going through the motions, and I was a whole lot of things to a whole lot of people and nothing to myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
and I
you
think
said something. I'm out there. Because I told you, y'all keep doing this to me.
Go for it.
So you said something that basically you said you were doing this out of comfort. You were living in his shadow. How does that play into the ministry as a whole now?
All of that was learning for me. So for me, it's always going to be a loss until you allow it to be a lesson, right? So for me, a lot of that was just loss on loss on loss on loss until I got to a place where it was actually could be a lesson. So all of those things, man, about being comfortable was really, honestly, D, to be brutally honest, there was some stuff I didn't want to give up yet. So my comfortability of hiding in the shadow was because I still wanted to do some stuff. You know, I had a nightlife. I had a whole life that, you know, I was trying to keep, you know, so, and I still wanted to do church. So let's not be fake and act like we don't want to do God, right? We want to do the God thing, but we also want to do the us thing. So the shadow allowed me to do both. Because if I missed the mark, right? Oh, that's my daddy thing. I ain't my dad. But then if I excel or I do something great, that's, you know, it's cool. So where I am now is, in it is all of that is an era of my life that I expose so that people who are coming behind me don't make the same mistake. So my transparency is not to gain membership, not to be popular, because transparency is not popular. Living an integral life in ministry is not the popular thing to do. My thing is so that nobody makes the same mistakes that are coming.
That's a man.
You scratching your head? You all right?
Nah, cause I ain't all right. Cause now he got me thinking about a lot of stuff. One thing he said I like when he said your losses equals lessons. That's like something that Fred Taylor said. Exposure brings about expansion. And speaking on exposure, when it comes to what you preach and what you live and everything, do you incorporate other religions in it, like Buddhist, Catholic, or is it just focused on your religion?
Only in my personal study. Only in my personal study is a conglomerate of a lot of things. What I lead a non-denominational church. I lead a non-denominational church that has an urban Pentecostal swag, right? But I study everything. I'm open-minded to conversations about everything. Now, being conversational doesn't mean agree. So I'm open to conversation because I study it. You know, whether it's Hebrew Israelite, whether it's Muslim, whether it's, you know, whatever it is. Just because I study it doesn't mean I agree with it or doesn't mean that I'm going to dive into it. So I've studied. Let me not say I've studied it all, but to a degree, I have either skimmed some or I have studied it just because I feel like if you're going to be all things to all people, then you've had to have studied a lot of things. So I'm not limited. I don't teach all that other stuff. I don't teach that stuff. I don't preach it. But in my personal study, I have to be aware of it because you can't be stupid to what's happening in the world.
Right. Anthony, you have a question? You have it? Like you don't have one tonight?
I'm listening, and then as he's talking, I'm thinking of certain things like he was talking about, you know, his nightlife, and what came to mind was Jonathan McReynolds' song "No Gray." I just thinking about that song, you know, makes me understand, you know, his walk of life. And with both of you, you know, I have a similarity. My dad's an ordained minister, but does he sit up in the pulpit and do it? The only time he did is when he went to jail. So his thing was to minister when he went to jail, and after he came out, he was back to his normal self. But he's cool now. Yes. What does that finger mean? You got to go to the bathroom?
That's the church finger.
Yeah. What?
I'm not
So, but I'm sitting here and I'm thinking and I'm reflecting back on last week, my comment that I made. And I think if I would have met someone like Mr. Mack in my younger days, my youth, I think I would excuse me, what am I trying to say? I would have been more open to church. I grew up Southern Baptist. So I was there from 7:30 in the morning to 7:30 at night. And no exaggeration, like literally no cap.
No, I understand. I was there too.
Yeah. And with my church in the heart of South Central LA, no AC, and it's hot. every Sunday, and I have someone preaching at me as a kid telling me, if you don't do right, you're going to hell. And it seemed like everything that was coming out of his mouth, that shoot, we sniffed the wrong way, I'm going to hell. So it scared me. But then as I got older in that church, I realized that there were groups and divisions. And in my head is, if this is church, why is it like this? Mom, I don't want to be here. I literally would go and ditch church and go hang out with the gangbangers in the neighborhood. And why are you here, little man? Because I don't want to be over here. Yeah, you look like you dress like you need to be in there. You know, go ahead. And it was like, nah, there was just so much pushback I gave the church. And even though my grandfather was a deacon. When I left the church, I was a junior deacon, even though I didn't want to be there. My father's an ordained minister. My grandmother, she was head of the choir. Auntie was deaconess, and my whole family is just heavily involved in the church, but I just couldn't get with it. But I knew my place. I knew my relationship with God. I have a relationship with God. And I used to tell my mom, I don't think that Reverend so-and-so has the right to tell me where I'm going if he's not living right. And we knew about all his stuff, you know, and that is some of what, for me, church, religion, I view it a certain way, but I do believe that it is important to have a relationship with God, with your creator, because that's what he wants from you. That's my understanding from what I get from the new and the NLT. I forget that the Bible I read in comparison to the King James, but I hear everything you're saying. It's like, yo, like, why can't, you know, a lot of us that are called to, you know, in the clergy be alive as far as what I get from you, be, you know, somewhat similar to you.
Because it's error, right? So like I grew up Baptist, you know, but here's what I had to realize, right? Baptist is not the problem. Religiousness is the problem. The spirit of religion is the problem. So it's not Baptist is the problem. It's having a mindset that is not open-minded to something bigger than what you're in, and having a one-dimensional mind. So for me, what happens is this, and this is what you have to know, is that we have taken and penalized God for the representers of him, right? And so the thing is we're representatives, and the representatives have taken hostage something that belongs to him. And I believe that the church was taken hostage in a way that you did not get God in some scenarios. In some scenarios, you got personal preference versus biblical principle. And anytime that happens, you get a person telling you that your red shirt gonna send you to hell. And if that's their personal preference, that red shirts or whatever, you get what I'm saying, then along the way, red shirts become an issue because this is what has been carried. So when I started developing my own relationship, it took me into new method. It took me into having that. But my sister, Nika, and other people who know me through that time will tell you I'm possibly what would deter people from going to church. And then, not being funny, like I could preach well, but I was still DJing in the club. So I could preach well, but you could come in the club and catch me with a bucket. You're like, you know what I'm saying? Like you could come in and then I'm gonna send you one. You get what I'm saying? You know, so like not being funny, but what I'm saying is like my representation was anti everything that I was preaching. So when they say hypocrite, I was that. When they say this was that. And so for me, now also this, I would not preach against what I was living. You could not get that out of me. You get what I'm saying? So there's a whole lot in context that we deal with that people wanted to be Superman versus Clark Kent. You get what I'm saying? So, so you got this Superman that show up on Sunday, but he's Clark Kent every day. So when you're like, oh, we know all this stuff. Yeah, because Clark Kent was exposed. You get what I'm saying? Like Clark Kent was exposed. When in actuality, we should have been painting the picture. I know when to put on the cape. Not that I got the cape on every day. I know when to put on the cape. And so it has damaged, and it is us, that have damaged it. It is us, because we say, when we say representers, or when we say to represent, each and every one of us have a way in a lane. We were supposed to represent Christ. Wherever church you were at, whatever church you've grown up in, everybody was responsible for representing him or packaging him in a way for people to walk away from there better. I'll stop there.
Yeah. And I mean, I totally understand, and I get what you're saying. It's like, I hear you speak about, DJ in the club. And what I've gathered through my readings and my findings and conversing with my grandfather and my dad, it's okay to do things, but do it in moderation. It doesn't say it's not okay to drink in the Bible, but it says it's not okay for you to overindulge, to where it keeps you aware of your big picture, or the big picture, like as you spoke of earlier, what it is for us. So, and that's like, I understand we're human, and that we're not going to do everything correct. But like you said, don't pretend like you just been Superman this whole time and you haven't made yourself available to be Clark Kent, because I'm going to be Clark Kent. And do I have my moments that I'm Superman? Yes. And what I do, what I know, when I'm coaching, when I'm training kids, when I'm refereeing, when I'm Superman. But also with that, people say, I think he might be Clark Kent, because I leave that vulnerability in there. And I think, there's been times in the Bible where Jesus showed that, even though I am of the Father, I am this. Hey, it's not easy down here. It's so many things. Like, I feel at times Jesus was saying, hey, Dad, you really did your thing with some of these temptations down here. It ain't easy to, go. It ain't easy to deter from the things that's happening down here. And I think that sometimes that's been my overall problem with the church, to pretend that you're holier than thou.
So, Marcus, you do this thing called morning motivations. And I look forward to the morning motivations, because a lot of times I always tell you, stop stepping on my grass, because it's normally something that I'm going through, have dealt with, but it always be like right on time. The message be on time. So the other day you were talking about when you were preaching from a hurt place. And they talk about hurt people. But can you go give some tidbits on that message, on your message where you were speaking about when you were preaching that new method, and how your hurt place, what you were projecting, was what we were carrying out and living?
I feel like a lot of people don't like to talk about it, but you will attract what you are. And at a season of pastoring, I believe that what I had around me, but I didn't have anyone to coach me out of what I was in, right? So if you don't have a mentor, or if you don't have somebody you're accountable to coach you or to pull you out of what you're in, you stay in it, and so do the people that are with you. And so for me, I believe that a lot of the, so y'all bear with me when I say this, because so when you have a pastor or anybody who always talking about haters, and that's their whole spew, like just everybody in the world hate them, and you just, something about your haters and all of that, it's really something in them. It's something going on within them that they want you to come into agreement with. And so there's someone that hurt them. There's some hurt going on in them that they're trying to make this expression and make the word go with it, right? So I say that to say this is there were a lot of expressions of the preached word that might have been great, but also possibly had a hurt spin on it. So a lot of the perspective wasn't from a healed place, it was from a hurt place. And so when a person is hurting and you're giving them ammunition to remain hurt, that's the problem. So I feel like my problem was I gave more ammunition for people to feel like it's okay to be hurt versus it's better that I get healed. You get what I'm saying? So you got a whole lot of people clapping you up and dapping you up like that's my man's and that's a great word, but to go home and not feel healed, but to go home and possibly like more pressure, like, man, I really want to slap them. I really want to blah, 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 because this word that I just got said it's okay not to like these cats. It's okay to feel this way. You get what I'm saying? So preaching from a hurt place doesn't help anybody. It doesn't give anybody the morale that's needed because there's a morale. There is something, the Bible declares that preaching the gospel is foolishness. And to me, when I hear that, it's there's a part of that you, when you tell a person you can come out of that, hey, this is better than that, you're greater than that, and you really begin to express a person's value, it's foolish to that person at that moment. You get what I'm saying? It sounds foolish. Like, man, how you see that in me? You don't know me, or you don't know where I come from. You don't know my circumstance. So, man, it sucked because I know that I was called to a lot. I pastored a lot of dope people, but I really wish that I would have been healed so that I could see a lot of those people or could have saw a lot of those people in a better place.
Man, you better watch your mouth. You know the minister mafia gonna come and get you. You're gonna disappear.
Well, let me tell you one thing that TK did when she invited me. I ain't been liked very often. So not being liked right now ain't gonna hurt me. So
Okay.
so they can't lynch somebody that they already think is dead. So it's cool.
Dang. Okay. So there's so many ways I want to go with this. I want to pick your brain on some stuff. Like
you can ask me, man. We good. Listen, she invited me here for this reason. I ain't going. If I know, I know. If I don't know, I don't know. Now, one thing that you're not gonna get out of me is I'm not gonna indict the whole body of Christ. But if I can speak to it, I'm gonna speak to it.
Okay. Like I told you, one of the reasons I wanted him on is because he's transparent and he puts that out there in his messages. And even when we were at New Method and we wasn't doing right at New Method, we was still trying to defend.
But we did some stuff right though. You get what I'm saying?
We did.
For it to be trial and error, we did some stuff right because we were a blueprint. You can't. Let me say this: you can't train a blueprint, especially if you can't. It's something that had never been seen before, so you couldn't mentor me. You couldn't tell me how to do it because it had never been done before. So it was like all trial and error.
It was, and we had great messages. We had great bonding. We broke some chains. We got Shanika out of her shell.
Listen, we did some dope. Listen, we did some dope stuff. But we also, for me, and I'm thankful that y'all let me lead you during that season. But we also did some stuff out of season, and that had nothing to do with you. That had absolutely to do with leaders, and that's why being called is dangerous, because you fully trust that leader with everything in you. And so when you say you'll go to the ends of the earth with a leader, that means you get heaven and hell out of them.
And I'm glad you said that, Del boy. When you said that, Del. So, please explain, what does it mean to be called? Who calls you? And what damn telephone service they be using? Cause like I'm being honest, cause some of these ministers say, "Oh, I'm calling ordained." I'm like, you must be on a cricket phone, cause your service is just hey, I don't know who called you. Was it? Oh yeah, you might want to hang up that phone and star 69 and tell them not to call you no more or block that line. So please explain that.
Man, really. So if you want the basics of it, everybody's called. So you want the basics called. No, everybody. If you want the basics of it, everybody is called because we're all supposed to. Those who believe, we should all be giving Christ to people, right? So when I accept him, I've also accept the call because there is a mandate, and the mandate was for everybody. That's Matthew 28, where he says, "Go ye therefore to preach and teach to all the nations." That was not limited to a pastor, a minister, or whatever. That's everybody's call. That's the go ye therefore. I'm preaching it tomorrow, by the way. But that's the go ye therefore, right? So, right. So that's my job. So everybody's called. Now, when you start talking about being called to pastor, called to lead, or called to ministry, there is something in you. There's something that there is a conversation that is had, right? We go to Jeremiah, where, we talk about God has a purpose and a plan for your life, right? And we talk about that. So here's where I'm not going to go, because I'm going to be nice, and I'm going to do this very, very tactfully when I do this. God does call people, but people also call themselves, okay? This is what I know you want me to get to, right? So there will be evidence on who God calls, because if God has called you and given you revelation, he will also give you demonstration. There's no possible way that God calls you and you're not able to demonstrate the very thing that he calls on your life. If there is no demonstration, you will always question the revelation of a person.
Woo, because
I question a lot of stuff.
Because but the seriousness of it is that we didn't like it when the old school pastors said this. They're preaching a trial sermon. We don't pay attention to language. In the old schools, the pastors would say, such and such is coming to preach their trial sermon. Here's the reason why. Because I need to see if this is real. Back at some point, people judged and they looked to see if you were going to stay, if you're going to stay this course, if you're going to be a part of growing, if you're going to be a part of that. What happened is people would go into places where there are no trials, there are no tests of this, because you can't accept a call at that level and not experience the great warfare that comes with the call. You get what I'm saying? So when somebody said something about it being, I think he talked about the flesh earlier, right? That's not an excuse. I don't care how you live in your flesh. Living in your flesh is never an excuse to do whatever the case may be. So people be like, oh, well, I'm trying and blah, blah, blah. Listen, here's some straight on facts. When God calls you to something, there is a level of responsibility and accountability that drives you to do the right thing, even when you don't want to, because there are lives at stake and his representation is on the line. Why do I do what I do every day? I wake up in the morning and I feel like this: God trusts me with his reputation. It ain't about Marcus no more. And when I get up in the morning and I have to go wherever I go, I have to realize that people will see him through me. I could be the first, and I'm not God, but listen to this. I could be the first Christ that people meet. What I mean by that is I could be the first sign of Jesus. I could be the first time they ever encounter who he is, what he represents. So I gotta always be on point.
True that. So it is very much. So as we were talking, me and you messaging during the week as we do, one of your messages that you did was you talked about laying on the couch. Mm-hmm. So of course, May is mental health awareness. Many elders do not agree with going to therapists, seeking counseling of any kind, but you have put out there that you do. Why is that?
All right, so let's talk about all right, so there's depression in the Bible. There were prophets who a man who called down fire. He fought Jezebel and he took on the prophets of Jezebel. And after all of that had happened, this great thing happens. Jezebel threatens his life, and he goes and he sits under the tree, and he has suicidal thoughts. God talks to him. No, this is God talking to him. So God is counseling this man who has been at the mountaintop and knows what it feels like to be successful. And now at the bottom, he's feeling like, man, I don't even know what's going on. I'm just trying to figure this thing out. And so God consoles him. There's a need for counseling. I don't care how much success you have, because at some point, success runs out. What do you do? What do you do when life hits you the hardest? We need Christ and a couch. There is some stuff we're going to get mercy for, and there's some stuff you need medication for. And it's just hands down that way. There's no way around that, because here's some truth. Can we see miracles? Yes. Can we see signs? Yes. Can we see wonders? We can see all of that. But it doesn't limit God's power because you're on medication. It doesn't limit your pastor because you sitting on a couch. I'm a pastor. I need a couch. You get what I'm saying? So there's nothing no different. People were like, man, Mac, why you go to the gym? Why was I going to the gym so much? Because the gym was how I fought depression. The gym, I go into the gym. That's where I get revelation, and I was fighting depression. I was literally in there every day, every rep. I would rep something out, and that was great for me. I would leave there feeling better than what I went in, but it wasn't good enough. You get what I'm saying? I needed more counsel. And the problem is that, so the problem is that there are too many leaders that are not willing to say, I don't know.
Yeah.
I keep telling you, you keep talking, you're going to end up missing. Hey.
We're required. At some point, we're required to say, that's not my lane.
Yeah, real talk. And
that's not my lane.
And what I loved, like I told you, I always love that you're so transparent, even with what you do. So you mentioned something, and it made me smile the other day, because you mentioned about counseling for married couples, about it's okay for you to go to counseling. You ain't got to go to your pastor. Or if that pastor your pastor sends you somewhere, do that. Don't put crosshairs. But what I love is that you and Nicole still keep y'all's coffee and conversation dates. I truly love that. And obviously it's still working because y'all been together 15 years now.
You have to. Because I don't know. That's the thing. I don't know. Let me say this. I don't do marriage counseling like people do marriage counseling. So when people come to me, either premarital or no matter what it is, you don't come to me. We don't take out pads, and you don't get to tell me what you don't like about her, and you don't get to tell me what you don't like about him. I'm not that. You need a therapist for that. That's not what you need me for. As a leader of a church, you need me to give you biblical marriage counseling, which is I need to tell you what the Bible says about marriage. That's what I need to tell you about. I need to tell you the do's and the don'ts and how God feels about what a man should be doing, what God feels about what a woman should be doing. I need to tell you about communication. I need to tell you, all of that stuff. But what I do not do, because that's not my lane, is I don't do the whole let's go tit for tat. Let's go through the stats of whatever. Nah, you got to do something else with that. So when I say that, I'm telling y'all, listen, I really literally stay in my lane. It is not in my lane to rehash, because if I get you in here and I can't handle what we rehashing, then you're going to look at me like counseling was a waste.
Yeah. That's a definite. That's definite. So I definitely respect
me and my wife had pastors counsel us and did a sorry job. So listen, I know what it feels like. I know what that feels like. There ain't no possible way you're supposed to be counseling me and my wife, and all of a sudden I get off the phone with you telling you how pissed and how mad I am about what happened, and you get her on the phone, and you like, so you're wrong for doing about? Nah, brother, that ain't the way this works. All right, so how about we just not going We just not gonna do counseling with you.
Man,
right?
you hit on something else there. So here's
We about to put you on the couch. But go ahead.
No, I'm finna no, because like it happened to me. So check it out. So we weren't even dating. So I went to church with a young lady in DC a long time ago, and we were just joking around about something, but it looked like we were having an argument. And first of all, dude didn't even know me. He said, "Hey, brother, you need to put your wife in her place. The man's supposed to run the house." And I looked at him. I said, "First of all, you don't know our relationship." I said, "Second of all, you don't know me." And then third of all, then I said some few choice words and basically told him that he need to mind stay in his lane. So that experience right there really, really kind of, well, that was part of it. That kind of turned me off to listening to individuals talk about that. So can you expound on that? Like when like the roles in the marriage and how it goes, like, yeah.
Man, like say less, like, so biblical standpoint, right? So biblically, all right, quick, so I can knock this out real quick, right? All right, biblically, the initial portion of what God does is God makes investment in man initially, right? So initially, what happens is the dust of the ground, he takes and he blows into that, right? To the nostrils of man, we have man, right? So we have man as a living being. Man becomes a living being. Not only does man become a living being, but man has the Holy Spirit. Here's why we love to put man in charge, because initially man was given charge and task. He was given everything needed initially before a woman comes, because as man is formed, man is not only given that, but man is also given the task of talking and communicating to God, because man is a communicator. So I prove that by as he is God, he's walking through the cool of the day, all this dope stuff is happening. God tells him, name the animal. So now he has communication. Initially, everything that we have or need in a relationship through the lens of Adam, it was given to man first. So through the lens of Adam, he has communication. Like, okay, let's communicate. Name these animals. So not only was there communication, but it was vision. These are all things that are makeup of a marriage that's needed, and it's all through the lens of a man. So I've got to communicate and I've got to have vision, because me saying that this is what it is means I can envision this is what it is. So if it's a dog, it's going to bark. If it's a cat, it's going to meow. You know what I'm saying? Like, so this is what Adam is doing, and God is giving him free space as a man to do so. You get what I'm saying? But then by the time he finds a woman, I say this all the time, by the time he finds a woman, it wasn't the absence of animals. It was the presence of animals that he found nothing suitable, the Bible says. Found nothing suitable. So because he found nothing suitable, he searched through, finds nothing suitable. He needs something to suit him, right? So when we're talking about roles, we're talking about a man that needs something to suit him. So when he chooses woman, he's choosing something that complements him. So my role in finding a woman or becoming married or coming together is I'm finding something that complements me. I've seen animals, I've seen beasts, but what I need is something that suits me. And most of the time, so when God does that through the lens of Adam, when God does that, he puts him to sleep. And the reason why he puts him to sleep is because God reveals to us through revelation that what man needs is inside of him. So initially, the reason why we should spend time in inner healing, making sure that we are a whole man, is because God should have the ability to reach inside of us to put on the outside of us what we need, right? So we have this woman that Adam gets, and she doesn't just come out of thin air. She comes from what's in him. So for me, if we're talking relationship and we're talking marriage, that means that what I choose is a reflection of me. And if I love me, I'm going to love her. And if I treat myself well, I'm going to treat her well. Why? Because she is a reflection of me. So these roles, now that she comes in as a reflection. So how I treat her matters. So this whole relational, my role is now he pulled me from the side. So no, I belong beside him. I don't belong under his feet. When he took from the side, he established where she should be. I don't belong behind him. I don't belong in front of him. I belong beside him. And she said that she would be a helpmeet. Here's my role. Women, here's my role. I'm a helpmeet. I'm a helper. But the problem along the way is years and years. What happens is women begin to choose men that didn't have projects for them to work on. So they begin to take the lead. They begin to get in front of the man. They begin to do a lot of things. You get what I'm saying?
Oh.
But the role is to grow together. And so that's what happens. That's our whole thing. Men should be bone of my bone, flesh of my flesh. She's woman. That's who she is to me. That we should be excited to have that helper beside us. But we've let society and finance and all kinds of material things dictate roles and dictate position.
Yes. Nika, what you got to say? Because I see it. Come with it. Come with it.
I'm just here. I'm listening. I'm taking it all in. I'm just listening. I'm taking it in. I'm not ready. I'm taking it in, though. Taking it in.
He hitting that. He hit that. So we're gonna go back.
All these things, yet they don't use it. But that's where I'm at. But okay.
Look, when he started talking about communication, I was like,
what we not finna do. What we not finna do is sit here and turn this into a man versus woman.
No, that's not
what we not finna do.
We're not. Listen, we're not. Definitely don't want to do that. But even if we look at the makeup of how things happen, men can be present and absent, and that is a malfunction. Because when the serpent is there and the serpent is talking to Eve, biblically, if you read it, man is still present. So he's not away working, tilling in the garden when this representation of this serpent happens. And the woman, she's not Eve yet, woman eats of that. She eats it, and then she turns around and offers it to him. He was there while presentation happened. And a lot of what women, or what we do in a relationship that is bad, is that the fact is we have people that are presently absent, right? So I'll leave it alone. I'll leave it alone.
No, don't leave it alone. You done started something now. Yeah, get your water.
Going to finish that. Don't
And so
somebody in the comments said message.
It was the presently absent piece that caused us to be in the shape that we're in, because what happens is he has the ability to correct the mistake by not even eating of it. He can address the serpent and say, "You're wrong, serpent. But remember this, watch this." He says, "She's bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh." At that moment, he traded in leadership. This is why we have leadership issues. This is why we have role issues and displacement things, because at the moment when he could lead, he trades in leadership at that moment. We don't have time to compromise or trade in our leadership.
And the doors of the church are open.
He just cut somebody. He just cut somebody deep.
That's it. Because I remember when you spoke on that, when you first talked about how, I don't remember what was going on, but it was like hot in the news. And you spoke about how it was the man that dropped the ball. And I remember you getting flack about saying that, because it was always blamed as the woman's fault for eating the apple. But like you said, he was the leadership. So, okay, we have a question.
Yeah, I was about to get on that, because that's the same question I got. But go ahead.
He said, "Here is my question. For the young men in today's generation, what advice would you give them if they don't know to lead or chase their purpose?"
What advice would I give them? Okay, so I want to be definite. What advice would I give them if they don't know to lead or chase their purpose. So we're talking about their purpose in life. This is what we're talking about, right? To the person that's asking the question.
Rodney, is that on purpose in life?
I just want to make
talk
sure.
about purpose in life.
Okay. All right. So when we say what advice would I give a person that doesn't know to lead or chase their purpose? All right. So what we don't like to talk about is our purpose is connected to our passion. And the problem from the church perspective is that we want to make every purpose a church purpose and not a life purpose. Life purposes are bigger than church purposes because some of our purposes in life don't necessarily mean it's going to be inside the church context. So if I'm telling a young man or I'm talking to someone about their purpose, first I'm talking to them about the most thing that they're passionate about. Now, if we're talking about going after it, first of all, I would tell a person to develop it before they go after it. Because the problem is a lot of us get a sense of what we should be doing and we don't get trained, mentored, schooled, or anything in it, and we go into it raw. So if I have a passion, if you're a photographer, if you're a hairdresser, if you feel like you're supposed to be, like for me, we talk about kings and queens. So if you're supposed to be on a woman's crown, it shouldn't just be because you've been on YouTube. It's a great teacher. It's a great teacher, but go beyond that. You get what I'm saying? If that's your starting point, go beyond that. Take it to the next level. So I'm a crown specialist. You get what I'm saying? If this is my purpose to make sure these women's crowns look right, I'm a crown specialist. Let me train, then pursue. Let me get the stuff in order and then pursue. The problem is that people pursue and don't have a plan. So I can't tell you to go after your passion or your purpose unless you have a plan. You have to plan that thing out and what that looks like. You have to, and so for me, this is when prayer comes into place. So I should have prayer, I should have a plan, and then I should pursue. So if I'm talking and I'm telling you, hey, this is how you do it, you should definitely have a prayer, a plan, and then you should pursue your purpose.
Whew. We're not gonna go there because you didn't already hit me this week with my passion and my purpose, and then somebody be co-signing on the back end because they didn't kind of said it. So
listen, I saw what I saw.
Check this out. I'm gonna just go ahead and dive into it right now. Go a little deeper with it. So, what do you think has become the biggest issue with church and the Black community?
White evangelicals.
Ooh. Explain.
When you ask, the problem is we have a lot of people who will not address the Black issues. So for me, I would like to say that white evangelicals who have a refusal to address the Black problem is a major malfunction, because a lot of this makes up mega, or what we would like to deem as mega ministries, or ministries that have also, and ministry also in the context of Black, people who have gotten tired of Black church have went to these ministries. And so you end up joining a place that is not culturally sound in your struggle, your history, and that becomes an issue. I don't think that the Black church has a problem addressing Black issues. I just don't think we do a good job of addressing all the issues, because I feel that we mimic the issues on the outside, inside, because we are that, if that makes sense. And if I explain, we are that. So whatever issue we have, we take that issue inside. So we are that issue. So there's no difference between crime out there and there's some form of crime in here.
Sure. Go ahead and say it. Yeah, go ahead.
There's crime in here. There's there's fornication out there. There's fornication in here. There's lifestyles out there. There's lifestyles in here. So what I'm saying is like when we start talking about the makeup of addressing the issue, I personally believe that God has raised up churches that are addressing all issues, and that is happening. Well, you're talking about a major issue is a lot of Black people left the Black church. So if you're talking about, so we're going to talk about the Black issue is there are a lot of Black people who say, I don't want to deal with Black church. And so they go to this other church, and they'll go to that church, and that the issues aren't addressed. Their pastors will not talk about this. Their pastors will not talk about that. And they're under that leadership. I believe that is a problem in the Black community, because if you go to a place where they act like racism doesn't exist, then you're a part of the problem too.
So that goes back to the.
There you go. So Marcus, what is dope?
All right, so dope for me, man. So dope for me was something that was birthed in a time of me finding my identity and losing my insecurities. So I had to figure out some affirmations and some declarations to make over my own life daily. So I ended up writing these books that really weren't for people, they were for me. But I put it out there for people because that's what helped me heal.
Healing. Yes.
Yeah. Because at some point as a man, from a man view, at some point as a man, you get told everything that you do wrong. And you don't get told what you do right. So if you're not careful, then you'll be built looking for affirmation. And I came from a space where I was looking for affirmation. I needed it. I needed to know I was doing something right. I needed to know this was my lane. I needed to know something. So I had to search out in the Bible to figure out what the Bible said about me, what Christ felt about me. And so they came up with dope. So it was like, and I got to do this every day. So literally I had to get up every morning and tell myself I was dope. So it was like on purpose. And I was literally on purpose every day, because I would go into rooms with pastors and feel inadequate. Because, I don't sound like them, I don't look like them. And so a lot of my relationships, that plagued me in my relationship. So I didn't have friends well. I didn't do a lot well because I never saw myself as valuable in the room. I never felt like I added to the conversation. And so at some point I had to figure it out. So I never really had adequate, if I'll be honest, I never really had adequate kingdom relationships, not because they weren't cool, but because I just didn't know how to connect. Because I felt, and I was just super insecure. And my insecurities made me be easily offended. And so I needed something, and God gave me dope. So it was dynamic, on purpose. Every day was the acronym that he gave me, because I needed to wake up and tell myself how dope I was every day. If I wouldn't have, because God already said it to me. So I was echoing what God said in heaven. I had to echo it here on earth for me to be able to be okay.
Yes. And I love that, because as you know, we chop it up, and we know that depression runs heavy in our family. And that's one of the reasons why we both are heavy with the mental health support and getting the awareness out there, because it's important. There's still that heavy stigma on mental health, but it's so many people that go on and are dealing with it. Like, I could see a damn elevator sign and I'd be like, shh, baby, where them stairs at? I didn't went to the stairs because I don't do elevators. At that time when Daddy got stuck in the elevator, baby, my anxiety was on 20 with him. I was like, woo, dude, I've been to tow it up. So in that, and where we are as siblings, we are healing our relationship, working on our relationship, making that strong. And one of the things that I do love is that we are transparent with each other. we are in a place of accepting our viewpoints and our responses. And it's taken a lot of growth. You know, I'm 40 or something. You know, you coming up, you almost
52.
40.
You know, you the oldest.
That's but by gray hair, you the oldest. So but we've hit this point of maturity in our life where the dysfunction, like you got to get to a point where you're tired of the dysfunction. And we would see it and know it, but we're like, man, like we really dysfunctional. Like our family is dysfunctional. Let's fix this because we don't want this to go down this path of being generational. We want to stop the dysfunction. And I think that's where a lot of the depression, the anxiety, and other issues happen. So how would you suggest that someone starts healing?
I would say so it starts with a lot of healing starts with grieving. A lot of us don't, a lot of us don't grieve properly. And so a lot of healing starts with grieving. Because if you don't grieve, you'll operate in guilt. So for me, it took me a long time to figure it out because I was guilty of a lot. And so but what I needed to do is I needed to grieve, right? So I needed to have that place of acceptance because, grieving process, we go through denial. I ain't got no issues, whatever, so I did need to get to a place, of acceptance. So I had to really I basically walked myself through like a grieving process. And up till almost, I think me and T probably been working for maybe like 4 or 5 months. It's fresh to us, maybe 5 months, trying to really, we were back and forth a little bit, trying to figure out if we were going to be consistent, right? So still in coming to that place, I didn't realize how I operated in the guilt of what I was not and what I was. Those are two spaces that will not allow you to heal if you haven't arrived in a place where you bury those things. So like me coming into the new year's, like, man, you wasn't that bad. You was bad, but so I arrived at a place where I no longer felt guilty. So my healing began really when I understood to get out of guilt. Guilt was the thing that blinded me from seeing my value, my worth, what I could add, and even in getting into a healing process. Because guilt is the blinder that will hold you back from forgiveness. And so
you said
I literally stopped being that and I arrived at forgiveness. And forgiveness is the total healing place for me because I didn't realize how toxic unforgiveness is. The toxic part of unforgiveness for me, it's drinking down poison, but waiting for someone to die, right? So like I'm the one taking in the poison while this other person gets to live and be free of not even thinking about me. They're not thinking 2 seconds about how I feel and what's going on with me. But here I am sucking down all of this poison. And so for me, I had to stop liking the taste of what I was drinking. And so I said, nah, I'm done with this. I'm going to forgive and I'm going to move on. Because I had to realize that forgiveness wasn't letting them go free, but it was letting me go free. And I needed to be free. I needed to be whole. I got a daughter, I got a wife. And I have a church that I needed to lead right. So healing in all of these places, man, actually arrived at, for me, the biggest place was forgiveness. All of the other stuff just falls in line. All of the other stuff just falls in line. And I think that a lot of us, and I'll say it like this and I'll stop, but a lot of us don't realize how God-like we make ourselves when we don't forgive. We put ourselves in a position to be God because God gets to decide who he forgives and who he doesn't forgive. We put ourselves and we become God-like when I say, you're not worthy of my forgiveness. And so for that level of pride, that level of ego, I had to drop to realize me, myself, and all of my nastiness, all of the thoughts that possibly never manifested into anything, God knew and still forgave me. How dare I not operate in this place of forgiveness? Because some of the stuff that I thought, if anybody knew, some of the stuff that I felt, if anybody really knew how I felt, like, and would have carried it out, I'd probably be in somebody's jail cell. I'd probably be underneath somewhere. But God said, son, I love you enough. I love you enough to forgive you. And that was good enough for me. And that's where true healing. That's where true healing took place, was through the lens of forgiveness.
That's what's up. I know when we had New Method and I came up with that project with the potatoes, baby, it took Shanika face.
Baby,
So
it was
like,
heavy, wasn't it?
like, so there was this project that I found, and we didn't tell nobody what it was. We just popped up at the church with all these potatoes in some bags. So the thing was, when we hit you with it, you had to write the name of a person on the potato for every grudge that you had. And you had to take that bag with all them potatoes with you everywhere you went for a week. Baby. Woo. Like,
Potatoes, grudges, and forgiveness.
yes, that's what the title was. Yes, that's what it was. Baby, when I tell you them potatoes was a headache and a half, it was like worse than your mask. When you didn't go into the store and you like, man, I didn't want to put potatoes in the car. And you gotta go back and get them and carry it. It was a headache. But that was my first realization to me on how I was carrying grudges. My bag was,
listen,
it wasn't no joke. I ain't trying to carry that no more. So
man,
I'm definitely working on myself and healing.
them potatoes get slimy. They start getting nasty. you know, like,
yes.
But that's the way forgiveness. No, shut up, Marcus. But
you're right. That's what it is. That's what it does. Because a potato, it'll last a little bit. Then it started, like you say, it started growing stuff out of it. It starts sprouting. And it starts smelling. It starts getting nasty. And it turned into something that you don't even want to deal with. You be looking like, oh, I don't want no potatoes no more. I don't want no potato salad, no baked potato. You don't want nothing after that, because it did. You saw the real on what holding grudges even do to you on the inside. It does get nasty. It makes you nasty. It holds you back from so much. So at this point I am where I'm healing and working on some of myself. I didn't cross some hurdles and got to fix some stuff. And like you say, I ain't gotta, I can forgive you, but I ain't gotta do you like this and forgive you. We can still be good. Girl, don't shake your head at me. I know I do my best not to hold grudges. The grudge thing, I can do a polite disconnect. I ain't got to talk to you. I can block you on Facebook. I ain't got to talk
isn't
about
that the same? But isn't that the same thing though?
No, because everybody, look, it's like this. We come across a lot of toxic people in our lives. You can love the person, but you don't have to love the dysfunction. So you can deal with them long-handed. When you say, hey, I give you a hug, hey, I'll tell you how I cross the parking lot, but I wish you no harm. I have no ill will, nothing for you, but I don't have to accept you into like this because I know who you are.
But then aren't you judging at the same time?
No.
Well, here's the truth. We have to love everybody, but we don't have to love every condition.
Speaking of conditions,
oh, here we go.
As a minister, I'm gonna put on my preacher voice and with your terms
there's no such thing, but go ahead.
Nah. So when it comes to the Black community and the church, how can we go about breaking these generational curses that have been rooted and grounded in the church, that were led by individuals who shouldn't have picked up the phone in the first place, or should have called the operator for assistance to lead the church? So, and because I'm listening and hearing just not just you guys stuff, but just people that I know myself, experiences growing up in the church, how we're now not disconnected, but scattered. That's the word I'm gonna use. We're scattered when it comes to dealing with religion and just dealing with God in general, because of generational curses, because of the things that we went through growing up. And I'm seeing a pattern where this is being passed on to the next generation. And again, it's going to get passed on to the next generation. So how would you, as a pastor, a minister, apostle, suggest we break that curse?
You have to find something that speaks to you, right? So like what happens is when you've experienced, because you can't have bad experiences in dealing with church. You can't have bad experiences. Everybody's not perfect. All of us shouldn't pastor. All of us shouldn't preach. It's just we shouldn't. Not everybody, right? But if I'm going to disconnect to break that, I've got to find something that speaks to me, and I've got to connect to it however I do, whether that's via online, if that's personal sessions, whatever that is because if I don't find a connection, I will stay in my disconnect long enough. And the enemy loves disconnection. So as long as I can stay disconnected, the longer I can stay connected to what I feel is a curse. So if it is a perpetual thing in our family or a cycle that you're seeing that most people fall away, then that means the enemy had found something in a family or found something somewhere to latch on to continue that, which is basically, there's a book called Screw Tape Letters that I read, right? So like it's basically painting the picture. It's sowing seed into a junior demon. The book is a junior demon writing. It's a senior demon writing to a junior demon on how to keep us in check, on how to keep us out the church. And so basically, when we operate in these curses, it's normally keeping us in check, which is, I knew they was a hypocrite. I knew that he was going to sleep that. I knew she was a bopper. I knew that she was going to do this. I knew all of this. So all of these checks is going off. Like, I knew all of this about them. That's why I don't go, because I knew it, right? But if I don't connect to something, so like at our church, I built what I like to call a transparent atmosphere. And what it is like, at this church I pastor now, we're transparent and integral. You don't get to talk about nobody because we know we all got something, right? So you don't get to talk about nobody. So I can't say that gossip is eliminated, but the murmuring portion of feeling like you got it and you got some hierarchy or you are different than somebody, you lost that. So when people come in to connect, they're coming in to connect. And the hardest part is not looking like past things. You get what I'm saying? So all of my feelings and all of how I feel about church, that's the hardest thing to leave, because this doesn't look like what you're used to. I've got potheads. I've got people that get lit and possibly drunk call folk and all other kind of stuff. I have that. I pastor that. But here's the difference, where people will be like, all the church is doing this and all the church is doing that. And it's all tied to a cycle, right? No. Here's what they had to connect to. They had to connect to understand, I'm not your policeman. Because a lot of what everybody has gotten used to is being policed and investigated. So I can't go to church because I'm tired of this policeman coming through my life, sending these in, because if he don't investigate, he got somebody that is investigating. He got somebody that's reporting. They got somebody that's reporting back, right? So I'm just done with the church. I ain't fooling with the church. I'm just done with all of the repetitive, ritualistic things. But what the enemy just sold you is that you don't need to assemble. And when the enemy tells you that you don't need to assemble, now you feel like you don't, like I know God, I have an experience with God, and I don't need the assembly. You said where 2 or 3 are gathered, he'd be in the midst. So I know you're going to ask me the question about, do you have to have church in a church? I know that's coming. Don't worry. I already heard it a long time ago. I know that's coming, right? So you should have church in the church, but anyway. You don't have to. But what I'm saying is like, if you don't connect to something, there is too much not to connect. Christianity is not the problem. We the problem. Christianity is not the issue. There is somebody in Christianity that speaks to you, and it is a sound unity. If you're a football coach, guess what? There is a coach out there that's preaching or pastoring that could speak to you. You get what I'm saying? Like directly to what's in you. There's a voice out there. So versus connecting to what's popular, you got to connect to what's for you. And when you get the right connection, it breaks curses. There's no possible way you can be connected to the right thing and curses not break. The problem is we be connected to wrong stuff. And a lot of these cats is wrong. So I'm just going to say it. Let me help you. A lot of it is wrong.
Wrong.
GPC did not say go pick Christ, go preach Christ. My dad says it said go pick corn. Somebody read it wrong.
That's funny.
I saw the sign. It said GPC. Go preach. Look, that didn't stand for go preach Christ. Go preach Christ. It stood for go pick corn.
That's funny. That's funny.
That is a mess. Yeah. He's coming up with some stuff. Oh my God, he do. Oh man, yeah. Man. you did hit on some stuff tonight, definitely, which is what I expected in the first place. An answer.
But I know D was gonna ask about the church thing, about because the pandemic kind of snatched some legs from the church, with the whole pandemic thing. It kind of
don't go there.
The whole 2 or 3 are gathered, piece, he would be in the midst prophetically. Not that I believe that God did anything God didn't birth COVID for whatever, but I believe that it was utilized to take away the crutch of a building. The problem for me was that people went to church, but people didn't take church home with them. So I think a lot of people would have experience. A lot of people went to church and loved God, went to the altar, prayed, and then left God in the church and went home to do whatever they did. God needed to be in people's homes. So the pandemic was about God being in your home. You had to take communion at home. You had to watch service at home. You had to do all of this stuff in your house, which you really never needed a pastor to do in the first place. This is stuff that you should have been doing at home anyway. Cracking my Bible open, studying, praying, doing this stuff with my family. Literally, it brought you back to sitting at the table with your family, because you sit on the couch watching whatever, you're sitting there doing it. So I believe that the pandemic was to not only do that, but to enhance where the church would not go. Because there are older churches that wouldn't come online. Your members need it. You got a whole young congregation. You're trying to do that. You got to come online. You should have did. You should do this. I believe that it was also to show some people, when you're talking about the call, I believe it was also to help some people realize that they were not called. You get what I'm saying? Like, because you can't open this. You can't redo this. You got to shut this down. You cannot come back to it. Matter of fact, let me shut this down and go merge with somebody else, because maybe I'm a 2 and not a 1 in the first place. So you get what I'm saying? So, so let me, so when you start talking about that, where 2 or 3 are gathered, he would be in the midst. I believe that God needed to be brought back to the gathering. And he taught us that brick and mortar is not the only place where he resides, that he deserves a place in our hearts. And I believe that if I don't know the mind of God, but if I could just imagine him being here, he's like, man, I've been tired of holding your hand. You've been holding my hand long enough. Like I'm tired. Like, that's cool. We've been flirting long enough. I'm tired of holding your hand. Like, you just been flirting with me. I'm tired. Like, take me home. Take me
So
home.
we're gonna get ready to close out, but before we close out, you are starting 2 new programs at the Well. Can you talk about those?
So which programs am I starting?
One.
So we want to talk about, you want to talk about Autistic and Anointed? So let's talk about Autistic and Anointed. So I have a young lady here at our church by the name of Tiffany Adams. Tiffany Adams is I want to call her an autism specialist. She has many degrees, speech therapist, the whole nine. She has housed children with autism. There's so much that she's done in that arena. So as a pastor, I had to learn something, that the church ain't built on me, and that the church is really built on the strength of your members. And you have to empower the members by supporting their strength in order to build properly. And so her strength is that. So we decided at the beginning of the year, when the Lord told me through vision, he said, you're going to begin to be communicable. You need to not build something new, but you need to merge with things that are already created. And so this is her heart for it. Her heart for it, I believe, is the heart of God, which is taking and going after a need in the community, right? But us having the backbone with the church behind it. So this program is special to me because it is the first sign of us getting behind what's strong in our church. I took some time last year and I had all of our church write their strengths down. And so I went through them, and I would go through every so often and I review them. I didn't know I had so many degree people that have degrees in whatever. I didn't know we had that. But for me, it's also a sign, and the reason why this is special is it's a changing of the guards. It's a changing of the pastor is the only one that sees. And, pastor is the only one that can do. So it's very special. So what we're getting ready to do here with that program is we're going to, this week, I'm going to be asking people to nominate 5 mothers, because the initial idea when I did it was very big. And what I'm learning is that people aren't equipped to volunteer for children with autism. So you can't just take volunteers for that.
Hello.
So you can't just take volunteers for that. So we're going to let people nominate. We're going to choose 5 women, and we're going to take 5 mothers, and we're going to take a night to cater to them. So we're going to take a night and we're going to have their hair, their nails done. We're going to feed them. We're going to do a photo shoot. We're going to do a photo shoot with them. All while that's happening in our church space, we have like 4 different classrooms. So depending on the need of their child with autism, if it's a sound issue, we have a room for that. If it's a hands-on issue, we have, that's what they need. We have a room for that. So we're going to set up the rooms, because I'm learning, and this is what I'm learning through Tiffany, is that certain children can't be too distant from their parent, especially with a stranger that they don't know and they're unaware of. So we're actually going to set up and design it to where the mother can feel comfortable and the child can feel comfortable as well. We want to initiate this and start this as a community feel, because we feel that mothers at that level need to be loved on, and it should not take a church service to do so.
Yes, we do, Jesus. We do, Jesus.
Okay, T, calm
I'm
your
sorry.
nerves.
I'm like LL. I need love. I'm just saying.
So you mentioned earlier about a blueprint, and I'm listening to you speak. I'm listening to you talk. I'm listening to everything that you're saying, and all I keep coming back is to that blueprint. You have created a blueprint for what I believe the church in the Black community has been set up to be. The church in the Black community is not only a refuge spiritually, but refuge for like different situations. Like you said, You got the autism group. You got all these different things coming about. My question is, why aren't more churches doing that type of stuff?
Because there is a field that we feel like we only have a lane. And church was meant to be marketplace and ministry, not just ministry. And so when a person or church doesn't know its power, and I believe that we have settled in limited fashion, and we don't realize the power that we have. There's no possible way people can say Holy Spirit anything and not realize the capacity of that, right? Because if I say, okay, the Holy Spirit resides in us, we say that, and this is just for example, we say that, right? So we don't realize the full capacity of that, because if not, then you're capped. So the reason, to answer your question, churches have capped themselves because they don't understand capacity. And so you'll always be capped where you will not take potential and turn it into producing. Our church model is, the old church model houses potential and doesn't take it into production. So you literally have to take, and what I'm using now is a business model. I'm not using a church template. I'm using a man by the name of John Maxwell, one of the greatest, writers of our time in leadership. His model is fit for business. So I had to flip my mindset to say, let me take this and bring it here versus taking this and bringing it here. You get what I'm saying? So literally the church has to switch its mind, because business has to be beyond finance.
Right.
Because if I can talk tithe in the church, I should be able to talk time in the community.
Right.
You get what I'm saying? I should be able to talk that talk. I should be able to have that. And so Maxwell is that thing that says, I want to produce. So our basic church model over the next 7 years is to be marketplace and ministry. That means if the world has it, we want it. That means if you can get your hair done, we want that. If you can get your car fixed, we want that. You can get health care, we want that. And we want to do it to where we can provide a service to the community, whether it's free this day, where it's free this day, or whatever the case may be. We want that space. So when you're saying the model is to take and become a marketplace where you have so much going on that's communicable that it never taxes your church. You get what I'm saying? So all of this stuff becomes funding. So I got hairdressers. Why you go get another building? Let me house that. You got this. Let me go get this. Let me go get this. And we house it. And so now that becomes a resource to go in the church. And that the church is just putting it back out. So that's what I feel like the makeup of the coming church looks like, of what God is building. We may not see it right away, but in the upcoming church, I don't think that people are going to want these big monstrosities of a building. I think that people are going to be going after these malls closed up after the pandemic, or these little, these shopping centers and those things, because you have to house something that helps. It's not just good enough to have the Holy Spirit. But I'll be quiet.
So the other ministry that you're looking to start is you're starting back opening the studio.
Yes, I am. So I don't talk about it often. So one of the rewards for what I endured in the last season of my life, which I don't talk about publicly a lot, I took on a church. After leaving the church that I pastored, a hip hop church, I took on a church, and that ministry was very hard to take on. It was very hard to take on. I have some beautiful members that rocked with us well. And in the silent season of us not, and I'll say this to people out there who are trying to expose people, if God didn't tell you to do it, there is something that happens when you do it outside of his season. And I don't believe God is raising up people to expose people. I believe that God has the ability and his time is ready to do so. So in our silent season, we had a building that was 4,200 square feet and it could barely house us. This building that we have now is 8,400 square feet, and we pay less. This building that I'm in now was a full-blown music studio. So where we have service at, it was a full-blown music production place. So where we have service at was actually where they shot music videos. I have 2 studios. I gave 1 studio to our youth wing because it's 3 rooms across. And I gave that to our youth. And so our youth have separate rooms. Then there was a whole place that I have never used in almost 2 years, which is now what we're opening, which it's a full music production. You can shoot podcasts, whatever you possibly want to do in it. It's soundproofed. It's ready to go. And so we're getting ready to record again, but the whole program portion of it is we're going to link with middle schools, high schools in the area, find children that have behavior problems, and we're going to begin to teach these kids a trade that will begin to shift their behavior. So we're going to come in and mentor you, but the reward for that is studio time. I have a photographer that will teach photography. We have, somebody that will teach you how to play an instrument. We have, so the different arts we're going to have, it's going to be an arts compilation of where, because you did this, we're going to do this. The problem that we have is that we want to call people out of stuff and call them into nothing. So if I want to call you out of your bad behavior and I want you to stop this, then I have to be able to call you into something. We've been dangerous, y'all. We've been going out to the blocks telling the drug dealers and the dope dealers, come off the block, but they making all this bread. So I want you to drop the bread and I want you to find Jesus. But what can I connect you to outside of Jesus? Because now you need resource. You got to provide for your family now. And that bread been good at your house. Like whether I like it or not, it's been good. So my thing is we want to provide things that if we can call you out, we need to call you in. And we're going to start with the kids. So if we can call you out of bad behavior, we can pull you out of this gang. We can pull you out of this abusive situation that you're enduring in your house. If we can pull you out, we need to call you into something, because you could be cutting hair at school right now. There's a young man, shout out to Brandon Mills, love him to death. His son is 16 years old and is a photographer. And I made a vow that when I was doing stuff, I was going to use him. He shot our fraternity probate, did a wonderful job. 16-year-old photographer. Yes. Imagine if we raised kids that were 13 and 14-year-old baking cookies, providing for themselves and not having to worry about whatever. They were taught, trained to do so. And now their house is taken care of. Now they're college. Now they're in their college dorm room, cranking out cookies versus, so that's what we want to do. We want to house their talents. We want to house their passions so that they have a great place to do so.
Hey, whenever you get a football program, let me know. I got you.
Listen, it's all out here, man. It's all out here. It's all out here. We should have it. There's no reason why, man. At some point, Do
you know? Oh shit! What is his name? Apostle McIntyre.
Yeah, he's dope. He got the football team here.
Yeah. When you hit on that subject about as a football coach, he's the first thing because that's how I really started asking questions about religion. Is when I went to his church and I just went on a whim, honestly, and then they had a flyer talking about they needed football coaches, and we just linked up then, and we that's a good dude.
Yeah, it's dope. It's out there, man. It's people like him, like y'all belong. Like even this podcast or what y'all are doing, like it serves a purpose. And it doesn't have to be housed within a church. The problem is that we've limited Christ to a building and not understanding that there are therapeutic conversations that need to be had. There are moments of stuff like this. We can laugh, we can talk, but everybody has a place where they belong. And that's all we want, man. That's all people really been trying to do is find a place to belong. That's what church is about. That's all this whole believing thing that we do biblically. It's about finding a place to belong. Because truth be told, while Jesus was walking, nobody belonged anywhere. You couldn't belong to a church because there wasn't one. So he coming through like, hey, you want to be well? Yeah, I want to be well. Cool. And then after that, they walked with him. You want to be healed? Yeah. And then they walked with him. So it was through their experiences, which was I was telling y'all at the beginning. It was through their experiences they found a sense of belonging. I belong to him. I'm rocking with him. I'm rolling with him. And we need to create these experiences on the football field, refereeing, wherever we are. It's that experience that they come into. Man, you see how he did that? How he encouraged me? Cool. And you might be like, man, I'm just blessed. And you're like, well, what is blessed? What does that mean? So what I'm saying, like, it's the small things that we discount that could matter so much to people. And I love it. I love, like I said, I watched y'all's, the podcast on autism was my first one. I love what y'all are doing, and I'm just excited that you guys asked me to be on here tonight.
Yes, most definite, and that is the reason for this podcast. We want to have those tough conversations. We want to break stigma. We want to put that out there and have these conversations because it's a lot. Everybody's not receptive. Some people are in denial, and if me and you talk, some people ain't ready. And everybody is in their place. To me, I'm ready. I'm ready to have those conversations because we've had some tough conversations. I'm ready to find my place where I belong because I've noticed lately I'm so not in my place. I don't fit in, and I wasn't made to fit in, and that's something even with autism with Asante that I've learned. You're not made to fit in, and I'm not. So we want that. We want the transparency. We want to address and put things out there. So we know that some conversations ain't for everybody. Everybody's not ready. But for me and where I've talked to my co-host, we are there. We're ready to have those conversations.
Well, I'll say this to all of y'all. I'll get my one little churchy moment. Right? So, it's the same for. What I hear for all of you on here, and my sister knows, like, I just go by what I hear, right? So don't any of you feel bad for having to disconnect to connect rightly. Nobody disconnected out of hate. When you disconnect at the level of what you've experienced or what you've seen, your first thing is you need to connect properly and have a proper connection. So, with the whole church move or the God move, a postured connection, which is, hey, I'm open to the fact that I could be a part of this again. It's only because you have him and know him for yourself. So when you disconnect it, don't take your disconnect as something that had to remain. Take your disconnect as you needed truth. I needed truth. I need to know some stuff. And if my truth isn't in a wall right now, let me not throw away the fact that I may walk into some walls again. Let me develop and keep an open mind to the fact that you are God, who you are. You do have a son whom I reference. Y'all do have a partner called the Holy Spirit, right? And for me, I just need the experience to know you reside in me. I don't want to deal with the idea of man controlling me, right? But I do want to deal with the idea of who you are. And in this next season for you all, my prayer and my declaration over you all is that you will find the right voice, the right space that will cause you to have experiences with God, period. That's what it's about. It's about that and being challenged. The church lost this challenge. We were coming up as kids, used to be challenged to do better, to do greater. And I believe the church lost the word challenge. When we get back to that space, you're leaving, going home challenged with like, I was gonna cuss you out, but I just, I was going to tear this bottle apart, but so we got to get back to that. So man, I applaud you all for being honest and not suffering in silence and not being a space filler in somebody's church just giving tithes and not having the posture for what you're giving, actually taking a moment to get some air and say, I want to do this right. And when I do this right, I know I'm going to be blessed for it.
All right.
Yeah. Now I can say that, I done had some moments lately where I'd have been like, almost hurt somebody's feelings with this word. Because I know my gift of words. We have a gift of words. We can say some stuff, and we ain't gotta cuss you out. We can say some stuff, and they're gonna hit you right up. We just got that gift. But I've been holding on to my mule. It's like in a headlock. Because Jesus, yes. So as we're gonna come to a close, we're gonna go ahead and do our outros. Ant, you want to start outros tonight?
Well, first off, I want to thank Pastor Marcus McIntyre. I appreciate your words. There's something soothing and guiding about what you're saying, and it spoke to me. I don't know if it was intentionally, or you just, speaking what was on your heart. But I appreciate it. T, job well done. The way that you orchestrate all of this, I really appreciate you. We have these conversations all the time where I'm gonna toot your horn if you won't toot it. And Durio, District Attorney Durio, love the questions, man. You keep us you keep us a buck, keep us on our toes, and it's just I appreciate all of us that are here. Nika, even though she sit in silence, but we're here for each other, and that's the big thing that I appreciated. And once again, Pastor, I really thank you. Love the words, and whenever I come to San Antonio, I will be sure to touch down with you and the congregation. I'm done.
Nika Pinks, Miss Quiet.
Hey, look, I was taking it all in. I'll be honest, I don't know if I should pass around a plate or what. I'm just like, okay, I haven't been in this type of atmosphere in a while, but it was refreshing. And I just want to speak on something you said earlier. I may not be within the walls anymore, but I'm still connected to source. I wasn't there a long time ago before I came to New Method. So out of everything that may have happened, you did get one and bring me back because I wasn't there. I was over the church. I was done with it. I wasn't having it no more. But I came back in. I got reconnected. So for me, that's a good thing. I will always appreciate you for that. And then the words, you always have a word with words. I'm like, you say that. Yes, I feel that. Most definitely. And it was just good to, see you again and hear you again. And just, it felt good. So tonight was good. This was cute. This was lovely. I liked it.
Before I say something, let D.W. Bishop, Elder, get to it. Some people did agree with you, Marcus, and say that John Maxwell is phenomenal. So we have some people in the comments that know. And Rodney already gave his shout out on another great podcast. And Rodney, we definitely appreciate you because you be out there with us for real. You rolling in there.
We need to get him on. He has some good insight too. We need to get him on as a guest.
Okay, well, I'll reach out to Rodney because we're friends on Facebook and see what topics that we got coming up that we can pull him on there. I think that'll be pretty cool. So, DW, your outro.
Actually, for the first time since we started this podcast, put my professional voice on. First time since we started this podcast, I am speechless. I took in everything. Well, I don't like to say take in, but I listened to things he said, and it's good to hear an honest. Fix your faces. Stop right now. But it's good to hear somebody being open and honest when it comes to something as this powerful in the community, because we all know that churches have changed individuals' lives, and in good ways and bad ways. And for somebody to be open and honest and say, "Hey, this is what it is. What it is." it's refreshing, and it hopefully, if anybody's paying attention or anybody's listening, I hope that you listen and hang on to the words that he said, and it opened your eyes to looking at being a part of something bigger than you, and not falling into that trap of, oh, I know what they said, I know this, I know what goes on at church, I'm not gonna go to that church. Get linked up with something bigger than you. And yeah, that's one thing I took away from it, and that's what I'm gonna do for myself. Oh, and last but not least, I got to shout out Langston University. I told you every week I'm gonna have represent an HBCU. So Langston University, my alma mater. And that's all I got.
All right, Marcus.
Firstly, Shanika, you can't get rid of me. I'm still your pastor, all right?
Okay.
But no, man, I appreciate it. T, this is part of our healing. You know, I was concerned. I said, Lord, they're gonna talk about the church, and I don't know what I'm gonna do. I don't know what I'm gonna do. But I was pressed in my heart to finally be a part of something for you, and you not have to be a part of something for me. You've supported me in some areas that I felt like this was my moment to show up for you. And so that's why I hit you up, because I think this is the season where you need to know that there are some people that are there for you, because you've done enough being there for people and not enough of being able to be receptive to people being there for you and not want anything from you. You've got a host, you've got co-hosts that just want you to make it. And so I am a symbol tonight and a sign of wanting you to make it, that this was my moment, if I never get another chance, to support something that you've done, something that you've created. This is my moment and my chance to put my stamp to say, I'm not fearful, nor am I ashamed of who my sister is. So I'm here tonight for you. This is not about the church. This is not about a lot of what it could be about. I know lives will be impacted, but I'm solely here tonight for you, to champion you and to give you the flowers that you've needed. You've been in the background a long time, and this tonight is your brother being able to be here to say, let me pull my pom-poms out. Let me cheer you on, because you've cheered for everybody else in certain seasons. And now I finally got a moment to have my heart as big as I can have it to say, this is my sister. She's dope. She's doing something great, and I get to be a part of it. So my takeaway tonight is that there's a portion of me that's healed, because I get to finally affirm you in spaces where I never got the opportunity to, because you were supporting me. And if you never felt appreciated, and if you felt looked over, it's because you were. It's because you were not appreciated. It's because you were looked over. But tonight, I'm here to appreciate you. I'm not looking past what you're doing. I see your heart. I see what you want to accomplish. And I'm here tonight. I can't make up for any of the other stuff, but I'm here tonight to give a new space and some new room for growth for us. So my takeaway is the presence in this ministry that I call the ministry of presence, is to be present to see you do this beautiful thing that is going to open up so many doors for others. So I love you, and I appreciate this opportunity.
You know I don't like you right now because you didn't have me this week from crying to shouting at my job with our conversations. This is healing for us. And I speak this respectfully to even our siblings. And I know one on my end and one on your end should be watching. That we need to break the generational curses. We need to get over ourselves and fix it. Like, real talk. Me and you are doing the work, and I value it a lot. I'm about family, and we ain't been family in a while. We used to Thanksgiving and Christmases. We ain't had them in years. And we got kids. Plain and simple, we got kids. So I tell you, I thank you for your words. I thank you for your support. It means more to me than you know. It really, really does. And just like we said at the beginning, let's get it. I use the same thing with Duriel, Shanika, and let's get it. It's so much to be done. There's so much healing and growth to be done. And all of us got something that we want to do. We just got to start doing it. Real talk. And I know everything that I want to do. Me and you've talked, and you told me what God told you. That's for me, and it's a lot. Woo-hoo, Jesus, it's a lot. But I'm ready to get it done because I want to be a help. It's even on the platform of autism. Just me dealing with this with Asante is so much, and the information is there, but it's like hidden under a boulder, and you can't push the boulder by yourself. Even Hope can't push that, probably push the boulder, but it's there, and it's a need. So I thank you for that. I thank my co-hosts, because as we were talking in the green room, they already told me they're not gonna let me quit. And I look at them sometime and I'll be like, ooh, I don't like y'all. Especially Duriel. I'll be like, ooh, I don't like you. You're getting on my nerves. And they got to run some blocks sometimes because I'll be sitting there like, ooh, Jesus, I'm about to cuss. And they be like, I got you. Even that, I got you. I'll be like, ooh, Lord, you trying to take me 10 steps back. So I thank my co-hosts because I know they got me. Like, 110. And I thank everybody else that rallies behind us and supports the people in the comments. I thank y'all 110% because this podcast, believe it or not, being a preacher's kid or not, this takes me out of my comfort zone. I don't like talking in front of people. I don't like being center of attention. I just don't like it. And this has took me out of that place. But I'm getting there. I like it here. I'll be nervous as I don't know what, but I like it here. But I thank everybody, Marcus. I thank you 110% because it means so much for me. You coming on with me tonight. Me and Dury was talking, and I was like, oh, Marcus responded. Oh, let's get it. So we was both hyped. He was like, for real? I was like, yeah. I'm messaging Morgan. I'm like, Morgan, can you add this onto the intro right quick for me? And he's awesome. Morgan, you know I love you to pieces, and I appreciate you as well, mostly, and my baby. Nay and Asante support me 110% as well, and I appreciate that so much. So tonight we close this on a wonderful, healing, fulfilled, teary-eyed note that my brother done made me cry on this live podcast.
So I like this. You were slick with it. I just peeped it. I just peeped game, Marcus. I really did. You took us to church on the sly. I saw that. I peeped that. Okay. I see how you do it.
He really did. That's why I was like, I ain't like this in a long time.
I'm sitting there like, why am I feeling like this? I'm like, why am I feeling like this? What is going on? Like, what the? Come on.
Yeah, he be crafty with it. He's crafty what he do, but he's good at what he does. He definitely has a calling on his life. And we know we've had to work out some kinks, and as anything, just even with this podcast, we're on episode 8 and we're going with the flow and figuring it out why we going. We're like, oh, okay, let's change this week. Let's do this week. So, we changing and going. And like I said, they supporting 110. We're about to end this first season and go into our next season. They don't want to stop, so we just gonna keep it going. So, I mean, it's a perfect thing. Happy Mother's Day to all of the mothers. This was like a Mother's Day present to me, having my brother on and just having this vibe and just putting it on the table. So this just touches and melts my heart completely. So to everyone, happy Mother's Day. To my beautiful niece, Rumarje, happy birthday. And he knows you turned in a big 7, and we now know what that 7 means. And she's getting it done. I love her spirit, and seeing her when she did the what's the name, the clothing thing show the other week, and I was just like, oh, look at her. She full of spunk, boy. That's an actress in the making right there. She got it. Real, she got it, and the talent is there. So we all got that talent. So she tapping in earlier than we have, definitely. So as we close, y'all have a wonderful night. Next week is mental health. We will have a 7 o'clock as well as a 9 o'clock episode. So I'm gonna tell you, get ready. Buckle your seatbelts. Might need you're gonna need some tissue, period. But these are the topics that don't nobody want to talk about, but we're ready to do it. So on that note, y'all have a blessed night and enjoy your weekend.